Hello. Okay,
Well,
I
you
think we're
two.
live here. Hello, YouTube. Okay, welcome back to the July 8th episode of Tub Talks. My guest this week is Cassia Hardy, and we are both coming to you from different rooms in Edmonton. Quickly before we start, I'd like to do a land acknowledgement and talk about some things going on in the world. I was informed by my friend Cassia just now that I've been doing my land acknowledgements wrong, or I've had some wrong information. So I just want to correct that. So I'm coming to you from Treaty 6 territory, which is Amasquatchie, and it is not unceded, which is what I've been saying. So a treaty, do you want to explain this a little bit better than I can right now?
Okay, so I think we're both calling from like what in English would translate to like Beaver Hills House, so Miskatchewan,
Okay.
and that city, that settlement resides in like Treaty 6 territory. And so the treaty system, which is largely like the Canadian plains, like the middle of the country, is a series of agreements between Indigenous nations and the English government, thus turned into like the settler Canadian government. And they're just partnerships to like they were designed to be like how best to use the land in concert, and certain rights were guaranteed to the Indigenous nations under these treaty partnerships, and really very little of them have been honored, but these partnerships nonetheless have exist in writing. It is like they're legal documents, and so if you don't have a treaty partnership with the nation or nations whose land you're residing on, then it was never formally transferred or shared in any way, which is why we use the term unceded and occupied territory. So Alberta is occupied by settlers, but we are Treaty 6 residents, so we are treaty people,
Okay.
is my understanding of how it works.
Okay. That makes more sense, and I'm learning about it all the time. So thanks for explaining that. Second thing I want to talk about really quick, try and do this beginning of every episode, is that there's still the Black Lives Matters movement going on, and hopefully we don't see an end in sight for that, right? We want to be continually educating ourselves. So I just want to remind everybody, until the end of July is what I've pledged currently. I will be donating $100 to an organization of my guest choice. This week we're going to be talking a little bit later about the Tiny House Warriors, which is what Cassia has chosen. And yeah, we'll get on to our interview, though. I'd like to introduce Cassia Hardy. So Cassia is the front person of Wares,
Yeah.
a heavy pop band here in Edmonton. And why don't you tell us a bit about yourself?
So yeah, I've been writing songs for as Wares since 2013. It started as a solo project, but recently I've been blessed to have a live band. My pals Jamie, Holly, and Matt helped me out on keys, drums, and bass, respectively, and we've been playing as a quartet since the beginning of 2018, and we have toured coast to coast. We've had the absolute pleasure of playing a lot of festivals. Most recently, I think Ian and I ran into each other at Folk on the Rocks in Yellowknife. That was
Yeah.
a real highlight, such a beautiful place. Um, and so I love in my music to make like, well, with the band, it's generally pretty loud and fast and driving because that's the kind of music I like to listen to and I get a lot of joy from. I want to provide like an emotional release for people. And as like a queer person, I that's generally the people I like to address first in my music and where I come from.
Very cool. I see people asking where the clown is. It is not here this week. So normally I've been doing this. I just moved into a new house, everybody. I just moved into this big empty house with a good friend of mine, which I'm very fortunate to be here for the summer.
Hey,
Um,
cool.
and I forgot to bring my clown painting this week. So it'll be here next week. There's a big creepy clown I like to have behind me. And but hey, we got a clawfoot bathtub. I'm still working out the angles, but we're working on it. And thank you for joining us here nice and early. I'd really love to hear a song, and I'm really intrigued because you're saying I like to play fast and heavy, and I want it to be an emotional release. And I've listened to this stuff, and it is. You call it heavy pop in your Instagram bio or wherever I saw that. But I want to hear the acoustic bedroom version today, whatever that sounds like.
Yeah.
So what's the
Can you hear
song?
my guitar all right?
Oh yeah, yeah.
Okay, sweet. So this song is off the album that we put out earlier this year. It's called Survival. This song is called Tether. Call me to light from the spiral down, nearly wound airtight. Poison in my mind says I shouldn't bother even to try. No, no, you do me one better. Reject the lies we're told, harm beyond measure. Slowly towards the light, something had to change, I can't deny anymore. Poison in my mind, suspending that last step towards the closet door. Go, hold on, I'll do you one better. Just watch me claw it up, that toxic tether. Coming out alive, living for the future for the very first time. It can't be overstated how fortunate I was to have you close beside when I was feeling so cut off. So tell me twice, oh, hold on, I'll do you one better than to stay locked up inside, denied of all pleasure. Stumble out an inch at a time, change your ways and cast that weight aside. Poison in your mind, poison in your mind, the poison in your mind won't wait to try to pull you under. So focus on, go closer to the ones you love. Yeah, that's that one.
Nice, very cool. You're getting lots of like, wow, I love her voice. Like, I'm enjoying this so much. Loving the tune. Yeah. So
I'm excited to hear this tenor guitar in action.
Oh, well, you're gonna hear a much quieter song than that one. I like we still got some bedroom rock out on that one. Yeah, so this is my little tenor guitar. I've been working on my 6-string for like a year now, but I'm still like pretty shy about performing with it. So this is still my main go-to. I love that you knew it was a tenor guitar though. Everything's changing, please. People are asking for that one. Well, I will trade you a song, but then I would like to talk about your new album, Survival. I want to get back to that in a second, but we'll trade a song really quick. I'm gonna play. I was gonna do a little quiet one. I'm gonna do "I Won't Be Anymore." This one was my little breakup song. I need my monitor here. Come to me, come on, lover, we can lay around forever. We've been making love for a dozen months. once. I don't have to give you anything, anytime, anyone. There's a balance, oh, it's the ballast floating in the toilet bowl. But it's the slowest burn. It's the slowest burn. Sing for me, appease my conscience. It's the only thing we've got down. We've been making love for a dozen months. I can't afford to give you anything, anytime. You can't live on crumbs. You'd be better off out on the road, holding out your thumb. But it's the slowest burn. It's the slowest burn. But I'm weak. I won't be anymore. I can always see you. I won't think anymore. And I'm mad. I won't be anymore. It's too bad. We won't be anymore. It's the slowest burn. It's the slowest burn. It's that one.
Yay.
Thank you. All right. I'd love to talk to you about this new record. So Survival, it's your first full-length LP put out by a record label that's second. I know it's your second, but this is the first one put out by Mint Records.
Right, sure, yeah.
Right. Mint, right? I believe on the West Coast, Vancouver maybe.
Yeah,
and they were the ones who broke the New Pornographers, who I grew up, and that was like my junior high rock out band. Like, so super cool that you're with Mint Records. Do you want to tell me about making this record, writing this record, like wherever you want to start? I really want to know about it.
That's cool that the Pornos were your like middle school rock out
Oh,
band.
definitely, yeah.
Like a way cooler middle schooler than I was. I got into them like late high school, I'll say.
Oh, well, we can talk about our different lame influences, because those always exist. Our secret influences.
I mean, yeah, so Mint's been going since like, I think 1991. As an independent record label on the West Coast. I'm really very happy to be working with them. During the lockdown, this real period of crisis, like I can't imagine, I couldn't imagine releasing an album and all like the emotional and intellectual effort that goes into a press cycle without them. They've really been a huge help. It's been so great to like have a team of people that I believe and I feel just want the best for me and the best for the songs. Like I'm not being pushed to do anything I'm not comfortable with or speak to anyone I'm not comfortable with speaking. Like
cool.
they're there if I need them, but they give me a lot of leeway to conduct my business as I've been conducting it this whole time before I met them. So it's great to have that respect and that trust as an artist and a label relationship. Yeah, the album itself, I recorded it over basically the summer of 2019 with the band that I spoke about earlier. And a good friend of mine, Mason Pitzel, who's like an ardent home recorder and a great songwriter. Anybody listening who's into that sort of indie rock sound, I would check out Alloys, Alloys.
Alloys, I'm gonna type it in here.
Yeah. like really great indie rock 3-piece. Mason's involved with a lot of projects. He actually also just put out a solo album under the name Light Hawk. That's all on Bandcamp. Can't recommend it enough. The reason that I decided to work with Mason is because of his approach as a songwriter and a guitar player, and how he has the means to record his own bands. I wanted to collaborate and have him just sort of honestly capture our sound, which I think is what happened.
Super cool. Is there an overarching theme that you would say exists in the album? In my experience, I found that it's like, I'll just be writing stuff and I'll try to look at it after the fact and establish what I think was going on in my brain. Was there a theme that you would say was running through Survival?
Yeah, it did. Like, I have the oldest song on Survival. I think I wrote in the fall of 2014. And it was a very personal song. It's called Jenny Says on the album. That's the oldest tune. It's also the only one with an acoustic guitar on it. I kept it aside from recording like my first album. It felt a little different, and I wanted to give some space for it. I soon started getting this like cachet of songs that were very personal over like very various pieces of my life. The first album for me, like the one before this one, was more about establishing like a melodic sound, and having the songs flow into each other, just like instrumentally, which is often what comes first for me. Like lyrics are often the last thing I'll write for a track. And so I had this big growing pile of songs I liked that had a very personal element to it. And so around probably 2018 or so, I started thinking about how to assemble them in a way that told a story from end to end. So how I interpret Survival, my album, is as a non-linear journey towards like healing and community. So when I grew up, as like a queer trans person, I felt pretty like judged and treated harshly by society, both myself and looking towards other queer people in media. And it made me put up walls and barriers, and I feel like I shielded my true self from the world for a really long time. Right. And I think a lot of people are like that, queer people especially, but like I think the systems that we live in this world prevent us from really connecting with each other. And so I wanted to write about my journey, learning to not only accept myself, but to tear down the walls that prevent me from genuine connection with other people, with the end goal being this connection that you have with your friends and your loved ones and those close to you, like real, genuine emotional connection. Right. That's how the world has changed.
Cool.
You find yourself in community, and everyone else has done this work of accepting themselves and finding love for themselves, and then you work together to change the world on a more wider scale. That's what I wanted to talk about with the album.
That's ambitious. That's big. That's very cool. That's very cool. I got a great question here from Killicky Frost. What happens when you write a song and you show someone, but they don't receive it in the way you see it? I know that can hurt my feelings a lot. And it's on the topic of accepting yourself and putting yourself out there as an artist. Something I know I'm always still working on as well. What's your take? Yeah, so you show somebody a song, maybe that's your producer, somebody you're working closely with behind closed doors. Maybe that's when you bring that track to the public. Maybe it's you get a review that doesn't say what you think it says. What do you do? What happens when you write a song, they don't like it?
Well, it's frustrating. You know, it's interesting because in my experience, like this album cycle has been the most anyone has talked about music that I've written.
Oh, and, yeah, you got big reviews, Pitchfork, Exclaim, Pop Matters. I just want to throw those out because these are huge accolades, right? Especially in Canadian artists, we kind of live behind a door, we feel, compared to American artists. I'm just telling everybody here.
That can certainly be the case. It's true. And there's a whole other conversation to be had with like how money interacts with getting artists talked about on those platforms. But I've encountered, for me and my taste, I would rather have someone have a strong emotional reaction to something that I make, either positive or negative. What can frequently happen is like this phrase, damned by faint praise, like people are just they listen to the track and they're like, oh, that's nice.
Yeah.
That is more harmful to me than someone being like, I've listened, I hear what you're trying to say, and I don't agree. And it's like, great, you've taken a stance. I appreciate that. You know, I really crave like substantive criticism as a songwriter, because
Right.
I'm always curious about how things are hitting people's ears. And so if folks like it or don't like it, I always appreciate knowing why. And if the point that I'm trying to make isn't coming across, like a lot of people seem to think this album is about my transition into womanhood.
Right.
And it is kind of about that, but that's not all it's about. And so that's something I suppose I've been struggling with a little. Not like it's not the end of the world for me, but because I just appreciate the fact that someone's taken the time to sit down and write about it or talk with me about it at all. Like we have one precious life, and if you're choosing to spend it with me, then I appreciate it. But it's right now I'm in a place of reflecting, like how can I better transmit my message that there is like no ambiguity. And so I guess I'm still trying to figure that out. At the end of the day, songwriting is a really powerful tool for self-expression. I think it's like really important for my mental health. Especially early on, writing songs like really helped me understand how my emotions worked and how I interacted with other people, just seeing things down on paper, and songs that I might not necessarily have played to the public or marketed as like showcasing what I can do, but just words and music together to help me understand myself. Like not every song that you write or not every piece of art or poem that you write needs to be for public consumption. They can be fully just like for your own edification, and that's okay. If you do show it to somebody and they misinterpret it or they don't like it, of course, that's not a great feeling. And I think it's something that a lot of people really struggle with, and it can lead to, again, putting up these walls like I was talking about earlier. But spending your life making art, like I can't imagine a better way to live, whether it's your like full-time job or not, which like, for the two of us, it's certainly not my full-time job, but it's something that I wouldn't give up for the world. So if somebody happens not to like one piece of art that you show them, what's very important is how it makes you feel to create it, I think.
Well, that's a very comprehensive answer for Killicky Frost. Yeah. I wanted to keep moving on. Thanks for the length of that. I appreciate that. I wanted to ask you, rather than about making the art, I feel like we've gotten a really good grasp that we can, in a little bathtub interview, on how you perceive making it and your mindset in doing that. Something I really appreciate too is the lifestyle it can lend us. We probably both are working other jobs or whatever, especially as independent artists. I guess now you're signed to a very cool label, but we're still small fish in the grand scheme of the world. So what have been some of your favorite moments that making art with Wares has lent you to be doing? So like you mentioned, we got to meet each other way up north in Yellowknife. I was lucky enough to get a position there working at the coolest folk festival I've ever heard about. And then I got to see your band perform there. So what are some of your favorite moments?
Oh, just, yeah, exactly like what you're talking about. That like that connection with other like-minded people is always really edifying. I really like touring, I really prioritized it in years past, because you meet a lot of wonderful people that are either touring acts themselves or were in their youth, and maybe they're now in a different spot. But yeah, the wider community of Canadian artists, you meet some really radical people with like that can really open your eyes both to like what else is going on in the country and in like other scenes, other communities, other genres, and can also really give you good insight into what community care looks like and what a beautiful world we could build for each other outside of the systems and the status quo that we currently have, you know. I am thankful to surround myself with people who really value and appreciate art for the life-giving activity that it is, you know, whether or not you are, again, whether or not you are pursuing like a very commercial mainstream career as an artist, or you're just making it because it makes you happy. Um, everyone agrees that it's great and it's a good way to spend your time. And so we can talk about, and I frequently do talk about with my peers in the arts world, um, how we can make things better and remove barriers to access for people that want to get in. That's like, those are the people I have the most esteem for, are people that want to remove barriers to access for art and want to start things like Girls Rock Camp, which I know last week I believe was the sponsor. Those are organizations I really have a lot of respect for. For a time in Edmonton around 2014 or 2015, 2016, I believe, there was a festival in Edmonton called Not Enough Fest. Mm-hmm. And the sort of their reason was in the name. It's not enough women, not enough people of color, not enough trans and non-binary people in the music community. Mm-hmm. And so their idea as a festival was to invest in the lineup for the festival by getting bands from these marginalized communities to assemble, giving them rehearsal space and instruments with which to learn, and then giving them a safe, non-judgmental place to share their art.
So that goes a step further than what we're seeing lots now, which, you know, in my opinion, is a flavor of a positive step in terms of, okay, mandating 50-50 gender parity, for example, for things like Breakout West, showcase festivals that are trying to put forward that.
That can be awkwardly worded too, like 50-50 gender parity. Like, where does that leave non-binary people, right?
No kidding. That's one thing. But what I just want to comment that was a super cool idea, that I didn't know that they were giving people space and instruments and providing a more like fundamental resource rather than like, okay, we're going to put on a festival, get out there.
Right. Cool. And I do think when you are asking people to take their time and their money and invest in this thing like a festival, that is like, there's a lot of questions I think we can ask ourselves about how to best include other people in this like revelry, in this good time, right? Because when I go to like a rock club at a show, or like, you know, unfortunately in Alberta, there are really stringent laws that discourage a lot of all ages music. That if there are any like YouTubers that are watching this from Alberta, probably know that if you're under 18, there's like not a ton of music to watch, unfortunately. Not a ton of live music to watch, I mean. So my favorite conversations and my favorite part about being a musician in this end of the country is that we're forced now to become really creative in how we bring the music to people and how we keep the community alive, because I think a lot of those lessons can be applied to our larger economy and the way that we interact with each other, right? Like, there shouldn't be any barriers for us to communicate and share music and art with each other, I think. And there's a lot of without things like corporate sponsorships and things like that.
I was going to ask you earlier what you were talking about when you were saying, okay, we want to tackle systems that are preventing us from building community, and you're answering that question as we're going along here. It sounds like it's really a change in perspective, rather than it's so much of, you know, who did you vote for, your political ideology, where you're spending your money. That's all part of it, but you're really talking about it being more fundamental than that. And you sound like you're really invested in being a pillar of our community, which is Edmonton. And I think that's great. I wanted to keep going, and I want to ask you one more question. what are you going to be doing next? What do you think's next, given that we're in a global pandemic? I know that you released this album. For everybody, I just want to tell you really quick. Many artists function on what we call album cycles, and that will be, years leading up to recording and starting to market that album, and then finally releasing it. And that's kind of when the work starts, whether you're touring it or continuing to promote it or whatever. So it's maybe 2 years of work. And for everybody, like lots of you probably know, everybody's jobs were cut in half or sliced along the way. So what are you going to do now?
Well, for me, I'm as a person that is in a position to get a lot of people in one place. That was kind of a big part of my scheduling, was booking shows and playing abroad. That's very much taken a backseat, and I am waiting very patiently, as with everyone else, for a vaccine. People are working very hard. And so what I'm doing in the meantime, I haven't even really been writing a ton of music. I've been trying to educate myself about the world. There's some really powerful and important movements happening all across North America. So I'm educating myself about things like the history of policing in North America, specifically Canada, and the history of settler colonialism in North America and Canada, and how and the lessons that are to be learned from analyzing these systems. As a citizen, as a person living in this place, that's taking precedence for me. Is better learning how to recognize the harm that these systems cause and applying them going forward, again, as a citizen, to how I treat other people and how I hold politicians to account. And I feel inevitably learning those lessons is going to trickle down into the art that I make. So right now I'm trying to be in a position of learning and absorbing as much as I can, learning about how things like capitalism can harm people, and hoping to internalize it and really think about it and give it quality time to let it sink in. And traditionally, as I've said earlier, songwriting is an important tool for me to sort out how my brain is thinking about stuff, right? For other people, it's poetry. I know a lot of people journal or live blog on YouTube. Those are all important tools for ordering your brain, right? So songwriting is my approach.
Right.
And so I can see in the future me taking these lessons and taking these truths and stories that other people are sharing and inevitably applying it to songcraft. But
right.
when it comes time to write an album or premiere a new single, that stuff I find it hard to think about. But right now I'm trying to be a good neighbor and text my friends and tell them I love them. That's what's next for me.
That's great. That's another big idea, another big task. I really like that. Is there any books or shows or anything bite-sized that we can send out to the people who might be watching right now where they can get their feet wet?
So obviously I've been focusing on my territory in Misquachie, Edmonton. There's a really great podcast that's just getting the wheels rolling called Is This For Real?
Is this for real?
Yeah, with a question mark at the end, spelled exactly like how you think it is. It is a podcast. Their branding is a podcast about being Black in Edmonton. There's 2 episodes right now, both little snippets about neighborhoods and different conceptions that people have about Black Edmontonians. It's incredibly well researched. It's very well put together. It's actually funded by Patreon, and if people continue to fund it on Patreon, they'll be able to devote more time to it, and it'll be the only Black journalist in Edmonton covering police and race issues in Edmonton, which I think is very important. So if nothing else, I would encourage anyone to check out the podcast, because the things that they're talking about in the context of Edmonton are probably applicable in many cities and towns, all over the place. So that's been a really great resource. And I'm sure it will guide folks to other like-minded stuff. But yeah.
That's great. Yeah. Thank you. Well, I think we should wrap it up fairly soon. And thank you, Ben, for saying you like our music, and thank you everybody for sticking around with us. I would love to trade one more song back and forth if you'd be interested. What would you like to play?
Okay, so I want to do something here. I want to play a new song.
Oh, crazy! Let's do it.
I know, right? It's not like it's written, but you know, we're gonna give it a go here, okay?
Oh yeah, snippets are cool.
Yeah, well, yeah, all right. I'm not gonna overthink it. I'm just gonna, yeah.
Yeah, we'll just roll, and whenever it's done, it's done. That's it.
This song is called Graceless.
Okay.
And again, it's just me writing about my emotional truth and trying to figure out why I feel like I'm so clumsy all the time.
All right.
Like I'm always kind of saying the wrong thing to the cute girl at the party. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So here's kind of this thing. Morning slips through the blinds like a sliver through a cuticle. We've done it now, for real this time, and what's there to remember? Was it a sour breath, a faded makeup mess, turned a smile to a shudder? Any goodwill left, invitations left unsent, ever to recover? Graceless, up too early again, another lowborn, out of body. I watched us, stopped at the crosswalk, in the throes of guilty passion. On the driver's side, where we rehearsing lines, a curse in the almighty. Or were we 10 years back in the basement with the cast, running miles beyond repair? Cut to present cry, spaced out of the turning light. Now everybody's with us there. Graceless, another low point on a meteoric streak. It's the same lesson every week. All eyes trained on me, clumsy and under control, and somehow red-handed, laid low, so low. Forever out of step with the finer things, stuck to live it on repeat. Instead of falling asleep, it's the same lesson every week. I'm my own worst enemy, caught red-handed, clumsy and too mortified to say hello. Deep breath couldn't hurt to say hello. Deep breath couldn't hurt to, or something like that.
Yeah, something like that. Wow, that's cool. That's great. And people are loving this. They're like, that sounds so cool. Graceless is such a great name. This is really good. It's very relatable. Dancing, people applauding.
Hey, thank you everyone. Thank you for listening.
Yeah, that was great. And you know what? I want to leave it there. I want to give you the last word on that one. That's really fun. I just want to ask, and a couple people are asking, how can we support you? What could we do to send people your way? Of course, we should tell everybody to go follow Wares. That's WARES on Spotify. That's the best way to know about the recent album and upcoming things. But what else can we do?
Well, okay. So if you want to support me, please don't go to Spotify.
Okay, don't go to Spotify.
It's fine. Thank you, Ian. I appreciate it. If you want to listen to my music, check out Wares, WARES, bandcamp.com.
There you go.
Because that's where you can listen to my music, and you can buy it if you want, or if you have the cash around to do that. And that way, most of the money actually goes toward me. But you can listen to it for free, and it's like I don't care if you buy it or not. I appreciate it, but it's more important to me that you listen. If you want to see what I'm up to, I'm on Instagram at Wares, WARES music. So at Wares music. That's probably the one I spend the most time on. But if you want to sort of talk to me, I'm also on Twitter with the same the same handle. So Instagram and Twitter is how you would like talk to me if you want to. And if you want to listen to me, then go to the Bandcamp. Yeah.
Evil Spotify stealing all our money. Good call. Well, there you go. You got a couple new people headed there right away, and I just want to say thanks so much for spending some time with us here. It was great to talk to you.
Yeah, likewise. This is a really cool thing you've got going here. Thank you so much for having me on.
Thanks. We'll do it again next week with a new guest, but I hope you continue writing and learning, and I'll keep doing the same too.
Cool. All right. Take care, Ian.
Cool. Thanks so much. I'm going to end the stream here.
All right.
Goodbye, everybody.
Bye.